This is a photo that was taken 4 years ago. That's why I don't quite look as good. I'm kind of slightly craggier and grayer than I was. But as I mentioned before, my name is Andy McLoughlin. I'm co-founder of a business called Huddle. If you want to tweet me, abuse me, follow me, you can do so at Bandrew. For those of you that don't know Huddle, we are a content collaboration provider for government and enterprise. We currently work with about 100,000 businesses all over the world. We have offices in London, San Francisco, New York, and Washington, D.C. And about right now, I wrote these slides a week ago, we're about 175 staff across those offices. We've raised about 40 million in venture capital, and we've got a load of great West Coast investors in our roster. We've been running this business for about 7 years now. I've also invested into about 20 enterprise companies in and around Europe and the West Coast. So I've seen a lot of the mistakes that founders make. And in the next 10 minutes or so, because I want to keep it brief, it is the end of the day. I know that everybody is desperate to go to the party afterwards. I want to tell you about the 10 things that I wish we'd known and give you my wholly incomplete guide to running a cloud business. So the first one is you need to get the basics right. And this is the same if you're running a consumer business, a mobile business, or a cloud business. And the first thing is you need to have the right team. Not these guys, they're stick figures. You need to have the right team you need to have an entrepreneur, the product visionary, you need to have a technical genius, and if you're building a cloud business, a software as a service business where you're going to be selling, you need to have a hustler as well. Because, like me, I don't want to be calling people up on the phone. I don't like being told no. I like it when people say yes to me. But the great thing is there are lots of people who don't mind being told no. The second thing is you need to think about what it is you're actually building. We hear about product market fit the entire time, building a product that the market will tolerate and the market will enjoy. However, you're going to be doing this likely for 5, 6, maybe 7 years. And if you don't have that product passion fit, then you're going to walk away within 2 or 3 years, and everything you've built could be thrown away. So think very hard about what it is you're actually trying to do. And then the last thing is technology. There are a lot of incredible technologies that you can build mobile applications, desktop applications, and web applications with these days. But if you're selling into the enterprise, which is what we do, you need to be thinking about what the CIO understands. And that means probably Java, .NET, Rails maybe. It does not mean JavaScript. You might think that Node.js and Meteor are super cool, but as far as the CIO is concerned, they're form validation tools, not the things you build a web app on. Now, we get asked all the time, when is the right time to launch? And, as founders, we have a terrible propensity to hold on to our creation forever. We think that if we speak to people, they're going to steal our idea and launch it themselves. We'll come back to that, Emmy. We will come back to that.
All will become clear.
However, unless you have a crystal ball, and unless you have, hundreds of millions of dollars that you're sitting on, you need to get that out early. You need to give it to customers and hear what they have to say. Put it in their hands, get their feedback. It's great to ask questions, but it's even better to get answers. However, once you have it out there, don't think you have to start charging for it straight away. One of the worst things you can do is give a product to a customer and then monetize it and then be beholden to what they want. Because as soon as people pay for it, they think they have a God-given right to tell you what it is they want. And I've seen lots of great companies and lots of great products go completely skewy because they listened to everything their customers wanted and weren't really strict about it. Now, I've got 2 great quotes from people about launching. First one is, if you're not embarrassed by the first version of your product, you've launched too late, from Reid Hoffman. Completely true. And then the second one, I remember reading this on Read Write Web in 2009, and it's so true. Stealth mode is for planes. Stealth mode is not for startups. So, get off your high horse and get that product out there and start getting feedback. Third thing is getting smart on pricing. Now, when we first started out, we didn't know how to price anything, right? We thought, we'll throw a price out there and see what happens. And what we realized very quickly is you have to be completely sure about who it is you're selling to. If you're selling to small businesses, then these type of gold, silver, bronze, freemium packages actually work really well, because small businesses like to know how much they're spending. However, what we realized was that as we were selling into the enterprise, enterprises buy in a very different way. If you're selling to the CIO of Johnson & Johnson or the CIO of Nokia, they expect to buy software on a per user, per month basis. And what's great about that is they understand, A, how much it costs, because you're selling it in the way they bought their traditional software. They're just buying it as a service. B, it's really easy for your sales guys to sell. C, it's actually really easy for the resellers in the channel to sell. And D, which is the really great one, is that it scales. So if you go in and you sell 20 users, you're going to get X. However, if you grow that over time to 1,000 users, you've just doubled your revenue by 500 times. That's great. Pick a villain. Now, in the startup story you guys are going through, you're Batman. And for every hero, though, there has to be a villain. Why do you need a villain? Well, firstly, when you're thinking about how you motivate your team, you need to get everybody on the same page. And you need to keep it really simple. I know that Batman has a million different enemies, but pick one. Who's going to be your Joker? Because as soon as you've picked that villain, it makes it very easy for, A, your product guys and your engineers to build a product that's better than that villain. Secondly, it makes it really easy for the marketeers to go, to build a message and go to market and tell a story which is even better than that villain. And then thirdly, it makes it really easy for the sales guys to think about who it is they're going to target, going after every single customer, every single user that villain has. Now, when we started out, we didn't have a particular villain. We talked about SharePoint. We said, we're going to build a better version of SharePoint. And in one of the very first VC meetings we had with Fidelity, Simon Clark, one of the partners, said, in the Salesforce story, they had Siebel. Siebel was the enemy. For you guys, who is it? Is it SharePoint? And we said, yeah, of course it's SharePoint. And then we spent 3 years running away from it and trying to work with SharePoint. We thought we could be mates with them. We thought that we could build a product which would sit alongside them and would work really well. And we did. However, what it meant was that we never went full pelt at them. And as soon as we decided that we were going to go at SharePoint, our business just skyrocketed. And it's all about focus. And it's not just about focus in the enemy. It's focus about what it is you want to do. Who is it you're going to sell to and what kind of product you're building. Focus is the number one thing that kills startups, or rather lack of focus is the number one thing that kills startups. Running out of money is a consequence of lack of focus. Running out of money is not something by itself. When we first started out, and again, all of this is things that we've learned over the last few years, but when we first started out, we said that we were going to sell to everybody. And in our very first board meeting with Eden Ventures, Ben Tompkins, the partner, said, okay, guys, which market are you selling into? Which is the target segment? And we said, we're going to sell into advertising, we're going to sell into government, we're going to sell into brands. And we listed off 5 of them. And we said, and you know what, we think we can sell to every single size of company inside those sectors as well. Guess what? Big mistake, because it's really hard, right? When you're a small company, maybe 5, 10 guys, even when you're 50 or 150 people, the more types of customers and the more types of segments and the more sizes you speak to, the harder it gets. And every year we've narrowed our focus, and every year we've said, actually, we're not going to sell into this sector. And every year we've got better at saying, well, actually, we're not going to sell into small businesses, and we're not going to sell to businesses under 100 people. And guess what? As we've narrowed that focus, our revenues have just gone through the roof. Now, the thing is, though, focus isn't sexy, right? Selling into a specific vertical isn't sexy. And I think if you're building a SaaS business or a cloud business, in almost all cases, you're going to have to get to grips with the fact that you're building an unsexy business. And by unsexy, I mean that this isn't the kind of business that you can run with 5 or 10 guys in a room. This isn't the kind of business where all you do is you're knocking out code and building great product and people come to you and they pay with their credit card. I mean, that's the dream that I had when we first started building Huddle. I mean, who here used Basecamp kind of around 2005, 2006? Amazing product, right? An amazing company, and that company is 1 in a million in that they've been able to build a sexy business without any salespeople, without any support. But the chances are, for anybody in this room who's building a business like this, it's not going to work that way. Now, who, though, has heard of a company called Veeva Systems? One person. So 37 signals, super sexy business, everybody loves them. They're probably worth about $250 million. I mean, that's pretty good, that's pretty sexy, I'd take that. Veeva Systems, which one person in the room has heard of, IPO'd earlier this year. On the first day trading, they IPO'd at a $2.5 billion valuation, and they, at the end of first day trading, were worth $4.5 billion. That's really fucking sexy. This is a company that had been going since 2007. They'd raised just $7 million in venture capital, and they had 143 customers. This was a company which, by being so targeted about who they were going after and what they were selling, they built a rocket which didn't just go to the moon, it went well beyond it. So for you guys, really think about, are you building this amazing lifestyle business? Are you building something which your mum is going to use and your friends are going to use? Or are you going to go the extra step and say, you know what, we're going to knuckle down and we're actually going to build something which can deliver real revenue? Because real revenue isn't sexy, but in the long term, it can be amazing. Now, the other thing about an unsexy business is it's not going to be 5 or 10 guys in a room writing code. You're going to hire marketeers, you're going to hire operational people, you're going to hire customer service people, you're going to hire G&A, you're going to hire finance, you're going to hire the people that chase down the big companies when they don't pay you after 30 days. And unfortunately, for the technology-minded entrepreneur, it means you're going to hire a load of these guys. You're going to hire hordes and hordes of salespeople, the kind of people who, if you're an engineer, it sends shivers down your spine, having to deal every day with the kind of person who would probably sell their grandmother to make the commission check so they can buy that big shiny watch they've had their eyes on. But salespeople don't have to be evil. And in fact, the sales guy, if he's managed properly, can actually be an angel in your business. Hiring great salespeople is like hiring anybody else. You need to hire people that fit with the business and really get the vision. But salespeople, if they're properly aligned and if they're properly managed and if they really get the product, they can take you from being a very small business, a business that might sell $1 million a year worth of software, to a business that could sell $100 million worth of a year worth of software. And when you think about all of the great SaaS businesses, all of the great cloud businesses, Workday, Oracle, Jive, Box, Yammer, maybe even Huddle, we all employ a huge amount of sales teams. Even Dropbox, the sexiest of cloud businesses. The dirty secret there is they have a whole army of sales and support people sitting behind the scenes, making sure that users are up and running and the sales are going well. Next up is hire smart. Now, when you're very small, you're going to hire your friends. You're going to hire the people that you know. You're going to hire the people that will come and work for you on a prayer and a promise. You give them equity. You give them a low salary, but you have beer in the office, and it's terrific. However, as you grow, you need to be thinking about what happens with these people. All the way through, when you're thinking about hiring the doers, the people that are making the sales, the people that are writing the code, always bet on always bet on passion and intelligence. But when you're thinking about the longer term, the leaders, the people that are helping set strategy, always bet on experience and expertise. People that have been through this before, people that really get it. And the hiring trap, and we've seen this, and every other business I know that has seen this, is that they take their original doers, the guys they hired in the very, very early stages, and they promote them through. Sometimes that works, and we've seen great guys that have come through, but more often than not, it doesn't. And don't feel like you have to fall into that loyalty trap where you're just bringing people through the business and letting them manage, because often they're not the best people for the job. If you're building a cloud business or a SaaS business, one of the worst things you can do is begin to sell on-premise software. And as this lady's saying, you need to stay sassy. There are so many benefits to selling SaaS. It's easy to scale. It's really easy to price up. It's really easy to service. It's really easy to scale with the hardware and the software and the sales. As soon as you start selling on-premise software, all of that disappears. You have to hire a whole army of support engineers. You have to support software in a whole different way. Deployment doesn't just mean clicking a button from your continuous development server and pushing it out. It means sending stuff on CD-ROMs. I mean, do people remember CD-ROMs? You have to put software on a CD-ROM and send it to someone. And you know what? The chances are it isn't going to work. I was talking to a friend of mine who works for Jive about this. Jive is a great software company. And Jive, though, built an entire business on selling on-premise software. And, and he's been there for a very long time. And he said the one thing he wishes they'd never done was made their first on-premise sale. Because Jive, for a long time, sold pure cloud and SaaS. He said the first time that we did an on-premise sale, it meant that we made a second one, and then we made a third one. He said, and before we knew it, we were on the slippery slope, and we were swimming in shit. His words. And I asked him, though, it seems kind of rich, right? Because you've built a big business on swimming in shit. And he says, but Andy, we're used to the smell. Not everybody is. So if you can, stay sassy. Number 9 is head west. Now, not every company needs to move to California to grow. If you're building something which is focused on the Turkish market or the British market or the German market, if you're working in fashion or finance or advertising, you don't necessarily need to go to California. But if you're building broad consumer technology or broad enterprise technology, you'll find you can raise double the money at twice the valuation in half the time by going to California. Moreover, it's where all of the journalists are. It's where the in-the-know analysts are. and it's also where the potential acquirers are. For us, if I list the top 10 acquirers of our business, every single one of them are within 10 miles of Palo Alto, which makes it incredibly compelling. And the final slide is, and this is something we've learned, and when you look at the very best American CEOs, even the very best startup CEOs, perception for them is reality. And being a leader is not just being operationally good. It's not just setting good management goals and hiring good people. It's making everybody believe that your company is more than it currently is. There are loads of players in our space, but there's one name that stands out because they do this very, very well. And we tend to be terrible at this in Europe. We don't sell ourselves in the same way as the Americans do. They're the masters at it. So to all of you guys, I would just say, kind of basically put your balls on the table and be bigger. Be a bigger man or a bigger woman and just do everything that you can to kind of promote your company hard. Because if you don't, your American competitors will, and before you know it, they will have overtaken you. And one final slide, and this is a quote from my co-founder. When you're building a business, and it could be a software business, it could be a cloud business, mobile gaming, whatever, things are never as good as they seem, right? You think you're riding a wave, but what's going to happen is that there's going to be another company who's coming up behind you and probably doing just as well, if not better. But things are never as bad. Even when you're at the very bottom of the curve and things look like they couldn't get any worse, don't worry. Just a few small changes, a few small tweaks can really help to bring your business around. So kind of have belief and build that great business. Thank you.